Hey y'all, it's Alicia. It's Story Time with Alicia with Back of the Room Productions, and I'm coming to you today from a different perspective. I love sharing the stories that Rick and I have in Yellowstone. We have so many wildlife encounters. It's amazing. For example, you might see the fox family here, where a fox father has just given these kits some food, actually a ground squirrel to be exact. And what I love about this story is that Rick and I photographed this story for a good couple of days. There were hundreds of photographers on this one fox den site, and when we came up to the fox den, we didn't know what people were looking at first. We didn't know it was a fox den. We just know when you're traveling in Yellowstone that when you see a whole bunch of photographers in a row, that you go and you look and see what everybody else is looking at. And that's what we did. We got our camera gear, we found a parking spot, and then we pulled up to, we put ourselves up to the first camera photographer, you know, and no one's really taking any photos at the time, and we're thinking, what is everybody looking at? We find a photographer that we know pretty well, and we go up to him and we say, hey, what are you looking at? Fox den. That's all you needed to say. The mom and dad had been going back and forth bringing food to these fox kits. This was, I believe, in 2015 when we had just this miraculous showing of the kits, which are the young of foxes. They're called kits. And they would come out of the den and play and wrestle with each other. The mom and dad, they would bring the food and they would go for hunting. And we got to experience this family for over 3 or 4 days while we were in Yellowstone that year. Now, what was really cool about it is that they would only come out at certain times. And most of the time, you're just looking at a big empty space in a tree. That's all you see. And then every 3 or 4 hours, then comes a fox, and then, an adult fox. Now, we never saw the mother and the father together with the kids. They were always taking turns. And it was on the last day that we were able to photograph the kits, and we saw the photographers standing there, and we could tell that they weren't taking any photographs, so we knew the kits weren't out. So Rick and I decided to drive on down the road, and all of a sudden I see this glimpse of this shadow moving in the woods, and I'm thinking, oh, I got to keep my eye on that. So I pinned my eye on this movement, and sure enough, it's a fox, a big adult fox. And I'm thinking, oh, this may be a parent, but they're going away from the den, so I'm thinking, okay, they're catching food. Well, sure enough, this fox, this was the father fox. He actually looked a lot prettier than the female fox, which is a shame. She looked pretty ratty, and I think that's kind of unfair for a mama fox to look awfully ratty, but she looked pretty raggedy and it looked like she had a couple of fleas because she was scratching and stuff. Anyway, this was the father fox, and I knew that because he was beautiful. His mane was perfect. His color was bright orange. And he was going away from the den, and we thought, okay, we'll find him catching breakfast. No, he had already caught breakfast, and he went and behind a rock grabbed a stash of food and then carried it back to the den. I'm like, whoa, we got to go back to the den where all those photographers were. We get back to the den, and sure enough, we set up, and our photographer friend said, y'all came back? I said, yeah. And I didn't want to tell everybody because I didn't want to be wrong. I said, I think we have a father fox coming back. They said, well, don't keep it a secret, tell everybody. And I said, oh, I don't know. So at that point, I got comfortable sharing the good news that the father was on his way back. Everybody that had been sitting down and had been, lounging around waiting for these foxes, they immediately all got up and they got in front of their tripods and they got their camera positioned on this hole right here where the den was, and they got ready to take a picture of that father fox coming back. And sure enough, in 15 minutes, he came back, and I was so excited. And because I was right, you know, I would hate for everybody to get out of their lounging area and, you know, be ready for a fox that never came. Well, he did come back. And actually, this is a picture of the father and kits. You can see one of the kits there. And then there's the father. He'd come back with a ground squirrel, and he started feeding these kits, but they weren't hungry. They wanted to play. So they started playing with the ground squirrel, and they would toss it up in the air, and then they'd go run after him again, toss him up there, and the father's kind of perturbed at him. He's like, I caught dinner for you. Eat your food. Well, they ended up playing with it some more. They played with the pine cone. Then the father taught them how to bury it. And so the father actually taught the kits how to bury the food. So what was really cool about this entire experience was that not only was the mother an integral part of the kid's life, but the father was an integral part of the kid's life as well. Thank you for your likes. Hey, I can't see who's out there right now because this thing won't scroll up. But anyway, thanks for joining in live. Anyway, but that's what was so unique. It's the mother and the father of the foxes took an integral active part in raising these kids. And these kids, they're so vulnerable at that age. I'll never forget on the day before when we were stopped at the kit den site, the kids were out and about and they were playing, they were roughhousing, and you know, you could hear the cameras. They're like machine guns going off. I mean, there's like 100 photographers lined up. As a matter of fact, Rick and our photographer friend Jim, he said we did a quick scan of the amount of lens out there. There's probably at least $1 million or $2 million worth of lenses out there. I mean, that's just how many photographers were out there honed on this brown hole where the den was. Well, anyway, these two kits, they're playing and they're having fun, and eventually some bighorn sheep were coming down the mountain. And I'll have to get this picture and put it on Facebook after I end this live session. And it was so cute that one kit stopped in his tracks and he looked up, and the sheep, which was an ewe, or you, I don't know. I'm looking at you, kid. I don't know. Anyway, she was literally looking at the kit, and they were eyeing each other. Here's this big sheep, looking at the fox kit. I'm going to learn that word eventually. I think it is an ewe. That doesn't sound right, but it doesn't matter. So anyway, they're looking at each other, and it's just so adorable because here's this little vulnerable kit not knowing what this big sheep-looking thing is. But eventually the sheep grazed along the hillside, went further away. But we had so much fun watching these parents take care of their little baby fox kits. Now, how do I bring that around to business? And the reason why I have to bring it around to business is because my coach, Katrina Sawa, said that if I'm going to do a Facebook Live, then I need to talk about business for just a little bit. We all need support. We all need someone in our life to help us, to help move us along, to nurture us, to encourage us. And that's what I love doing with my clients. I love my clients who come in with business or branding or speaking questions, and they're not sure where to go. What kind of clarity, they're looking for clarity on different issues, and that's something that I love providing. But I can tell you right here, right now, if you decide to be in business, a speaker, and then what you have to do in your branding is make it consistent. So when you're if you're going to be a speaker, then you want to put speaker on everything that you do. When you're in business, you want your business branding, your visual branding to be consistent. Just like these foxes. They have orange coats. They have an orange coat for a reason, because they're red foxes. Now, and so every time you see a fox, you know it's going to have an orange or reddish coat, just like in your visual branding. Every time someone goes to your website or a social media site or looks at your business card, you want it to look visually similar so that people can recall who you are and what you do. That's why your message needs to be clear as well. So that's a little tidbit now today. That's probably a little stretch for talking about how mom and dad fox take care of the little kits. But I have to tell you, that was probably one of the most endearing animal experiences that Rick and I had in Yellowstone. And it's one reason why we've named the property that we've purchased, where we have a new office and we're going to build a home in a couple of years. We've called it Fox Meadow, because it's just, the foxes brought such joy to our lives. The kits were just fun to watch. And I hope you enjoyed this short little video on some of our animal encounters. And if you do have a business or business challenge and you need clarity or help, then give me a call. I'm Alicia White at backoftheroomproductions.com. See y'all later. Have a great day.